7 years of plenty followed by
7 years of famine.
That's what Joseph predicted when asked by Pharaoh to interpret his dreams. As we continue our message on the rescuer, we want to focus on the pivotal moment in Joseph's story.
Oftentimes it leads to a familiar interpretation. Enduring hardships leads to eventual reward and elevation, showcasing God's faithfulness. However, upon closer examination, Genesis 41 reveals a deeper narrative that warrants a more nuanced understanding.
Joseph is second in command to a pagan king, whose very existence is blasphemous before the holy God. This blasphemous king, who thinks that he is a god, says to a covenant child of the Most High God, "You are now my servant to prop up my kingdom where I am God."
Little did he know. Hello, I'm Linnetta.
I'm Patrick.
And together we are co-founders of
Vertical Connections, Inc.
Thank you for subscribing if you're new to this channel.
Yes.
Everyone click the like button, the bell icon, and share this message.
Also, we greatly appreciate when you leave comments, and we look forward to those in the future.
This is where we ended at the last message by saying that
We
didn't believe that the greatest gift Joseph could receive was to be second in command in the land of Egypt. The reason being is that this still left him with being subservient to Pharaoh.
So, as you think about that, here's Joseph, one of the covenant people of God, being told that he has a reigning position, but it still has strings attached.
It's not scriptural, but it is true. And Lord Acton was correct when he stated power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Oh, yes.
And now here Joseph stands in power.
Jesus warned us about power, does he not? In Matthew chapter 20, Jesus speaks specifically about those who lord it over others and about those who would be great being servants, not being in power.
But there's more. Genesis 41, verses 42 through 43. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand and clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him ride his second chariot, and they called out before him, "Bow the knee." Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt.
Make no mistake about it, there is an intentional reference here to bowing the knee. That goes back to the first pair of dreams that Joseph had interpreted. Remember, Joseph interprets this dream that his brothers are going to bow down before him. And rather than bowing the knee before him, his brothers would rather kill him, as we see in Genesis chapter 37.
We know that they don't just mean that figuratively because they have proven that they are murderers. Do you remember the Shechemites?
Yes.
And what Dinah's brothers did to them?
Oh, yes. We continue, Genesis 41, verse 44. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphenath-Paneah. Now, Joseph has a pagan name, and he has a pagan identity. Are you beginning to see how this all falls together?
Here's what's ironic. We get to Genesis chapter 41, and we say this is the payoff moment. Really? Is it the payoff moment? All we've seen so far is that this man is serving a pagan king and has pagan wealth.
And all the accoutrements that goes along with being in power in a pagan culture. And now he's been given a pagan identity. Why is it that in Genesis chapter 41 we praise this, but in Daniel 1 we condemn it?
They get their names changed. They get a pagan identity, they're serving a pagan king, and we say, "Whoa" to them. This guy gets the exact same thing, and in fact, it's his story that would have given Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, there we go, the courage to continue in Babylon. Why? Because they want pagan wealth, and that's what Genesis 41 is all about, right?
No, Rather, exact opposite. There's a final piece of the puzzle in Genesis 41, verse 46. And he gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. Now he has a pagan wife.
Let's do a quick review. God makes a covenant with his people. This covenant with his people has to do with the promised seed that is going to come. It has to do with this place, this promised land, and it has to do with blessings from them to the nations.
Now Joseph, who is beginning to experience the first fruits of the covenant people of God, living in the land of promise, is taken away from his father, away from the covenant community, away from the land of promise into a pagan land where he has pagan power, pagan wealth, a pagan identity, along with a pagan wife. And we say, hold on, just a minute. He gets sons too. Wow.
There's another reason why this cannot be. The apex and what Genesis chapter 41 is all about. Look at the second reason. The second reason you find being in verses 50. Okay. Before the year of the famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, born them to him.
Joseph now has 2 sons who were born of the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, one of the 2 most powerful pagan priesthoods in all of Egypt. She's the one who bore them to him.
Now watch what happens. And here in the naming of his sons, and you will discover that Joseph doesn't think that.
Chapter 41 in Genesis is the payoff moment. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For, he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second he called Ephraim. For God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction.
3 things. 1, he gave his boys Hebrew names. He did not give them Egyptian names. No. He says to everyone who is paying attention, I do not consider myself an Egyptian. I am a Hebrew. I am a member of the covenant people of God. I am not one of these people. This is not my payoff moment. This is not as good as it gets.
Secondly, the name of his firstborn boy, I have forgotten all my hardship and all my father's house. It's very difficult to translate this from the Hebrew, but that name Manasseh does not mean I have forgotten that I belong to my father's house. It can't mean that because he gives him Hebrew names. So, what does it mean?
It means that I have forgotten all of the hardship in my father's house that led me to this place. Another translation of what the name Manasseh means might be, I let all that stuff go.
Oh, yeah. The name Manasseh might mean, I do not choose to define myself by the difficulties that I have encountered up until the point throughout my journey with God.
The name of the second-born Ephraim, God has prospered me in the land of my affliction.
Joseph says Egypt is the land of his affliction, not the land of payoff, because this is not what I was living for. I'm a child of the covenant. I am a child of the one true God. I'm a servant of the King of heaven. I don't exist to serve the king of Egypt.
So number 1, this is not the payoff moment, because if you just look at the narrative, these are not the things that he looked forward to. But secondly, if you look at the naming of his sons, Joseph didn't even see this as a payoff moment. So here's the question. Why Genesis chapter 41?
I'm glad you asked. Joseph himself answers this question when his brothers show up. He finally reveals himself to his brothers. He cannot control himself anymore. And when he reveals himself to his brothers, here's what doesn't happen.
Joseph does not look at his brothers and say, I'm Joseph. I'm the one you sent into slavery. I'm the one that you wanted to murder. I'm the one that you did not want to bow before. But you've been bowing before me ever since you came to Egypt.
I'm the one that you didn't think much of, But now God has made much of me. I am the one that you thought God gave too much favor from his father, and now I'm the one that God has favored before the most powerful man in the world.
See, that's what you would have said. How do we know that? It's because that's what
we
would have said. But what does Joseph say to his brothers?
Join us next week as we venture deeper into Joseph's story and share this profound shift in his response to his brothers. Unlike what many of us might anticipate, Joseph's reaction isn't one of bitterness or resentment.
He doesn't seize the opportunity to flaunt his newfound power or dwell on past grievances. Instead, Joseph's words offer remarkable display of forgiveness and grace.
So, what does Joseph say to his brothers? We will explore this pivotal moment together in our next video as we share Joseph's true moment of payoff.
If you are encouraged and have enjoyed this message, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel.
Your support means a great deal to us and helps us to keep creating great videos for you. Thanks for being part of our community. So until next time,
get connected
to go vertical.